Why is you're the last person to tell?
Are you recording? You're recording the Zoom as well?
No, over.
You can, I mean, we can record it from Zoom. Doesn't matter. Yeah, let it run. You can always take and like cut out any of the extra.
No, when you want
So, you want some Zoom?
I want to learn, Ron. I'm thirsty for knowledge, man.
Yeah, man.
Gotta be, right? This industry is dead, man. Always changing. Corey loves pumpkin spice over there, guys. So he's not lying to you when she's telling you that that's going to be gone.
My brother and I tore up those Oreos.
Did you actually believe me when I said we gotta do?
You're welcome to whatever I got here. We can tell that picture. I'll tell you that shout.
I might draw a lot.
You good? Yeah, good artist.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm gonna share a story. So previously I was an executive for Delaware Federal Credit Union, right? So I ran their lending department and all that. And I used to be in the conference room. I'd just be like, and not even paying attention to what I'm doing, right? Right. I'm drawing on the board. Everybody, and there's an audience probably like 50 people, and I start crocking on. And what I was trying to draw, I was trying to make our service more like Disney World, and I'm trying to draw Mickey.
Right.
But I drew it so fast, and I didn't even look at what I drew, and I'm not going to draw it again. It's inappropriate.
Everybody wants to draw anything inappropriate you want.
Everybody said, "Well, instead of doing the Mickey, I extended the face a little too far."
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's laughing. What are you laughing at? I look, man, that stuck with me for years, man.
Right.
Rich is
We
so
don't have the eraser. We haven't yet unpacked the eraser. It's somewhere in our bags. But.
There's also more offline for this.
I don't think draw anything else. So, guys, thanks for having me. I'm Rich Mazzio. I'm with Pike Creek Mortgage. I'm out of our Delaware office, which is right on State Street across from Lynn's. You guys familiar with that? Yeah, State and Lynn's. So I've been in the industry, I hate to admit it, but over 20 years now. I am a mortgage loan officer. Live in Middletown with my wife, 3 daughters, and my dog. And it's similar to, I'm sure you guys, I just have a passion for helping people get into a home. Pike Creek Mortgage, we're any of you guys familiar with us? Have you dealt with us in the past? Yeah. Any loan officer specifically?
Patrick McRae.
Patrick, yeah, great guy. So we've been around about 30 years in Delaware. We're the largest private lender in the state of Delaware. When I say private lender, we compete with big banks, which one we consider private. We have like 20 loan officers, about 96 employees, and we recently we're proud of it. Last 2 years we've won first state favorite, the Delaware Online competition. They run first state favorite lender in the state. So super proud of that. As far as what I'm concerned, I love to build relationships with realtors. How I think I differentiate myself is accessibility. You guys are trying to get a deal done at 9 o'clock on a Sunday, and you want to run numbers by me and say, "Hey, Rich, you have enough cash for this deal," or whatever, you text me, shoot me a call, I'm always going to be available to you. Versus if you're sitting there with a Quicken Loan, pre-approval, you're going to be like, "Oh, we're going to wait till Monday to call them." That's not the type of relationship I like to have with realtors and borrowers. So anytime you guys need something, you want to run numbers by me, I'm always accessible to you. What I wanted to talk to you guys today about was, are you guys familiar with the Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye program with Delaware State Housing Authority?
I've heard of it. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we've all probably heard of it.
All right, we're going to talk about that today. What that is, well, first of all, Pike Creek Mortgage is the preferred lender for Delaware State Housing Authority. You go to kissyourlandlordgoodbye.com and you click on lenders, and see our name right at the top. We do the most loans in the state for them. We consider ourselves experts for that program. I will give you brochures at the end to kind of have like a takeaway, so when you're out with borrowers, you can talk about it a little bit. But what the Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye program is designed for are folks who may have a cash shortage for a transaction. everything else about their deal works, their credit works, their income works, but they might have a shortage of assets. So sometimes I want to talk all slides, but I'm gonna go through these slides a little bit. I'd like for this to be a conversation because there's probably some scenarios you guys have run into that you don't want to bounce off me. If you have anything, just, don't wait till the end, just interrupt me and kind of talk through it. But the Delaware State, this is just an introduction to Delaware State Housing Authority. All right, so I want to talk about, so when it says DPA, they're talking about the down payment assistance. Are you guys primarily doing deals in Kent County or is it statewide?
All of us are, we're licensed throughout the state, and I think most of us would, I know I've worked up and down the state, I'm sure that most everybody would.
Yeah, primarily I do Kent and Sussex, with Newcastle for me, like Wilmington area is like a Wild West, but most of the time.
Okay,
They say the same thing up north, they're like, that southern region.
Yeah.
The Wild West.
Well, it's funny, I live right below the canal by Freight Land, and it's like, you can cross over, below the ditch. People think, but anymore, Middletown feels like rare, but
Yeah.
all right, so I'm gonna try to focus on Kent and Sussex because Newcastle County has different rules than do Kent and Sussex, and sometimes it can get a little bit confusing, but no, what the big difference is purchase limit and income limit. So before I talk into that, I want to tell you a little bit about what the DPA program is. You figure on your typical FHA deal, you're probably looking about 8-ish% of purchase price all in to make the deal happen. 7, 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. With this down payment assistance program, you can get from Delaware State Housing Authority anywhere from 2 to 5% of the loan amount from them. So, just keep the math simple. If it's a $200,000 loan amount, you can get from them $10,000, up to $10,000, which is a significant, particularly in a market where you guys aren't getting any seller assistance. In order to get some help from Delaware State Housing Authority, it's a big deal. What that help is not a grant. People think it's free money. I got a grant from Delaware State Housing Authority. Cool, I'll walk away from it. What it is it's a loan from Delaware State Housing Authority. So how the process works is we get the borrower, and we're going to pre-approve them with your standard underwriting criteria. So we need to make sure they can get a mortgage first before we even engage Delaware State Housing Authority. So all your standard underwriting criteria, 620 minimum credit score, your income requirements, some of the other credit-related requirements, they need to meet that first before we can ever engage Delaware State Housing. So let's say we can get them approved, everything looks good. We're like, all right, let me see your bank account, and how many money in the bank account. If you don't have a program, that's probably when we don't have a borrower or somebody who can buy a house because we got to walk away from the deal. We got to say, sorry, you got to pay about 10 grand, blah, blah, blah. That's when we'll engage them and understanding the program. We'll say, all right, we can potentially use Delaware State Housing Authority's program, and here's how it works. We get them pre-approved, we attach that program to the loan, and we go out and do the work for them after they're under contract as far as getting the money from Delaware State Housing Authority. Usually they have to do some home counseling, which we'll talk about. But what happens is if they get, in my example, if they get that 10 grand, that becomes a second loan from Delaware State Housing Authority at 0% interest, and they're not making any payments on that ever. It does not need to be paid back until they either refinance the property or sell it. So it's a second lien just sitting on the back end of the loan on the house, where a lot of people forget about it when 10 years later they go to sell, and it's like, dude, you owe Delaware State Housing 10 grand, and they have to make that whole out of the profit for the sale.
So are they allowed to pay us around there, like, say in 5 years, oh yeah, we have 10 grand, we still owe, are they allowed to pay it before they sell?
They are, but because it's a 0% interest, there's really no motivation to pay. Like, if you're going to pay towards that, you might as well just pay towards your first mortgage, which is, let's say 3 1/4 today or whatever. But to answer your question, yeah, sure. If they won't pay that down, they can have to do that. You guys understand how it works? A lot of borrowers come like, I'm getting free money from DSHA. No, you're not. It's a loan, but So what this first page talks about is some of the income limits. If you focus on the Kent and Sussex, the total household income, whether they're on the loan or not, total household income for a 1 to 2 person home. So let's say husband's credit's horrible, wife's the only one on the loan, we still need to bring in husband's income towards the program. Cannot exceed $99,600. Okay? If they have children, good morning. If they have children or any third or more person living in the home, you'll notice that the household income goes up by about 25 grand. The limit's 124,500. So this program isn't just for low income folks. I would call it moderate income. Because there's a lot of households that don't have 100 grand as annual income. You'll see that maximum loan amount, all counties. That number is a little misleading when you go to the website. Right from their website. For Kent and Sussex, the loan amount, not purchase price, the loan amount cannot exceed $312,000. That 417 only applies to Newcastle. So Newcastle County has higher income limits, higher loan limits, and we'll talk about the other differences. You guys get that? You understand that? Yeah, good one. All right, so this just kind of, I knew I would do this, but I hate talking off the sheets because then I feel like I get all over the place. But this, everything on this next page is everything I pretty much just said. Okay. All right. This MCC tax credit overview is probably one of the coolest things that nobody knows about that the Delaware State Housing Authority program offers borrowers. If they are under a certain income limit, they can get up to a $2,000 annual tax credit for the lifetime of them being in the home. So what does that mean? A lot of times, so as a lender, a lot of times what we're challenged with is our DTI, right? So on standard conventional, you usually don't want to exceed 45% debt to income ratio. For your FHA stuff, you probably get up to around 55 or whatever. But if they are eligible for this tax credit of $2,000 a year, I can add back $166 a month, which is 2,000 divided by 12, $166 a month towards their income, which does help the DTI situation. There's a lot of deals that get won because of this program. But in addition to that, for the life of them being in the loan, every tax year when they go to write their taxes, they're starting out with a credit of $2,000. That's a big deal for them. You know, so that's what this program is. There are, I don't want you guys to even think about trying to figure out the knowledge behind this, let the lender do that, but it's income dependent, home dependent, program dependent. What I mean by that is conventional, it's like you can't exceed a household income more than like $57,000 to get this credit. FHA is close to 80-some thousand, and the counties are different as well. And the product depends on the property you're buying. But just know that that is available there. This is a huge deal to somebody who's, you know, if you're living in a house 10, 15 years, every year you're in there, you can write off $2,000 immediately. So it's a pretty cool program. And it's all kind of part of the same thing.
Now, do they have to be first-time buyers for that? Or?
Yeah, that's the question. Yes, they have to be first-time home buyers. They have to. Let's talk about that for a second. That's actually the next one question because it comes up a lot. A first-time home buyer in the state of Delaware, with the exception of Wilmington, is somebody who has never owned a home at any point in their life, anywhere in the world. Period, end of day. There's no, oh, I haven't owned a home in 20 years, I'm a first-time home buyer. If you've ever owned a home at any point in your life, anywhere in the world, you cannot be considered a first-time home buyer, with the exception of Wilmington. Gets some different rules. With the MCC, the tax credit, yes, it absolutely must be a first-time home buyer. Okay. The rest of the program applies to anybody. All right, so you can be a repeat buyer and still use the additional program.
What if they're married, but they're like, if their husband or their wife had house first, but they're just on a deed because they're married? Are they, when they go out to buy their own home, are they still considered a first-time home buyer?
If you're going to add the spouse to the deed at closing, they are not a first-time home buyer. And the reverse is true. If I was on the deed with my spouse initially, but not on the loan,
Yeah.
and I go to the mortgage company and say, I want to buy another home, I want to be considered a first-time home buyer. No, you're not. You've already owned a home. So it's about home ownership, not about having a mortgage or not. You know what I mean?
So if you're on the deed,
You're on a deed, you're considered a home owner.
Oh, wow. Well, they just put you on a deed, like, they just put you on a deed?
No, they should have to sign something at closing. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's
Good question, though. That comes up a lot. People want to be considered first-time home buyers, and it's like, and I always ask you questions. I ask it just like this: have you ever owned a home at any point in your life, anywhere in the world? Well, 30 years ago, not first-time home buyer. And why first-time home buyer matters is, in addition to all this, you get first-time home buyer credit at closing, which property, depending on property, and the rule of thumb I usually give people, so you can get anywhere from half a percent of the transfer tax up to 1.25% of transfer tax. In the state of Delaware, overall transfer tax 4%. Buyers paying 2% of that. If I can get 1.25% of that, that significantly drops my closing costs, which drops my cash out of pocket. If you combine that with this program, now somebody who would typically need that 8% that I talked about all in might only need 3% to get into a house. So now that $200,000 house, maybe they only need $6,000 as opposed to $16,000. With the first-time home buyer credit, what I usually tell people is a rule of thumb: if the town you're buying the house in has its own police department, you're probably only getting 0.5%. Think about what I mean by that. Town of Camden, City of Dover, Milford has its own police department?
Yes.
Yeah, Town of Milford. If the town has its own police department, it has different tax laws, which means the transfer tax credit's probably only going to be 0.5%. If it's on the outskirts, no own police department, you're probably going to get 1.25%. Every time I get a contract, the first call I'm making, after you guys let me know which attorney we're using, I'll reach out to the attorney. I'll be like, I think it's full or partial. Because it matters, because it means cash out of pocket, what they need. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so these are the income limits I was talking about. This is for conventional. So for Kent County, they cannot exceed 55,200 to get this household income. This is for conventional. They cannot exceed 55,200 to get that annual tax credit. Which you'll see is a huge difference from Newcastle County. All right, so the rates on this, the rates are a little outdated, but coincidentally, it's not too far off from today. Every morning at 10:30 a.m., it says 10 a.m. there, but I usually don't work till 10:30. 10:30 in the morning, every morning, Delaware State Housing Authority updates their rates. Some weeks it never changes. Sometimes it changes day to day. If they're using the DSHA program, so they go through us, we're the lender, but we use the DSHA program. Depending on how much down payment assistance they're getting, and I'll get that in a second here, we have to use the DSHA rate for the mortgage. Okay, so there is no, I'm going to shop rates. Now, if you're using that program, your rate is unequivocally what DSHA says it is. When we go to lock in, which isn't until 30 days out for DSHA, you can't go up to 30 days before closing. So if you got an example, if you guys go under contract today for somebody using the DSHA program, and the quoted rate is 3.25 today, but you scheduled me a closing for 10/31, I can't lock that rate in until October 1st. So there's a 14-day window where anything can happen. If you look at this, the GNMA is the government loans, FHA, VA, USDA. The FHLMC is your conventional. If I get, so just go to the second row, if I get 2% help on a government loan, my rate for the loan is going to be 2.875. You will notice the more help I get from DSHA, the higher my rate on my loan is. Personally, the sweet spot I try to keep people in is the 4% PPA, because you'll notice it's a 1% jump in interest rate, which ultimately impacts their monthly payment, which ultimately impacts their debt to income ratio. I try, unless it's absolutely necessary, that they get 5% help from DSHA because of a cash shortage. I try to keep them in the 4% range. Yeah, that's when we start talking about seller credit, you can get a gift, all that other stuff comes in. So, does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
All right, and what's really cool, if they don't need help, but they want to use DSHA anyway, because DSHA has more attractive rates if you get no help. That's what that first line unassisted is. That rate today is 2.5%. You're going to be challenged to find a 30-year fix today for credit challenged folks at 2.5%. And the cool thing about this program is whether you're a 620 score, which is the minimum, or an 800 score, program's same. So I can be treated as a A++ credit as it relates to this program with respect to pricing. Following? Whereas if we don't use this and we're just pricing normal people, it'd be like, you know, you're 620, your rate's gonna be 4. Oh, you're an 820, yeah, your rate might be 275. But this program is also.
So this GNMA insured unassisted is like a USDA?
Now, what it means is all my other criteria fit. I'm under the income limit. I'm under the purchase price limit. I don't need help. I can still engage DSHA and use their rate. Gotcha. You follow me? Yeah. So we use this programming for folks who don't need any assistance.
Is a 30-day close realistic? Because you said you can lock.
Well, I lock in 30.
Right.
So there is typically, I'm careful when I say, we can get one for 10 business days. Do we want to? No, because my underwriters and processors will start throat punching if I do that. If it's gonna win the deal and you guys gotta get a deal done in 21 days or something like that, be like, hey man, if that other sales contingent, I gotta get this deal. The only way it's gonna win is if we absolutely close by October 31st and we're sitting here, it's October 8th. FHA typically takes longer, well, the government stuff typically takes longer, and the DSHA stuff takes longer because of part of this, and so last slide. Some of these deals, the borrower is required to get home counseling if they're under a 660 credit. So if they're between that 620, 660 window, they're absolutely required to get home counseling. And that sometimes takes time. As you guys know, the appraisal takes time. Title work things come back pretty quick. But so what happens is, like I was saying, DSHA does not allow me to do an interest rate lock until I'm 30 days out. You guys can be under contract 45, 60, whatever day. Just know that there's a risk factor in there because I don't know what rates I'm doing. And then on day, I always put on my calendar when I get a contract 30 days before, lock the rates, and then I'll have that call. And, you know, the rates, I have no flexibility with it. I can't, you know, you can't buy it down and all that. It just is what it is.
If that, if something happened and that closing date got pushed back like 2 weeks, what happens?
We can do a rate lock extension, which is usually 15 basis points. They're gonna have to pay to extend that lock. And that does happen. I just had one happen this week, actually. And it wasn't even the borrower's fault. And I'm like, you know, it's DSHA, you know, they're only letting me lock it for 30. So it's a good point. I try not to lock exactly 30 days out. I usually try to do 27, 28 days, just to leave one more room for some last minute thing on closing. Oh, good question. And then the last is, I just talked about home counseling, 659 or lower.
Is that the end call?
Yeah, if you go to the website, it lists their approved counselors. Encall's one of them, YWCA, there's about a dozen of them on there. Like $100. Usually they're, you know, the counselors will do it via Zoom. Yeah, it takes a little work for the borrower, but it's not huge deal. You know, it's just something, you want to buy a house, something extra you gotta get done. But this program we use a lot, especially for first-time home buyers. Because what I find is somebody's been in that rental cycle forever, they have not had the opportunity to sock away money. And they didn't own something before, so they're not getting any profit. So they look great, they're doing everything right, they just haven't had an opportunity to sock away money. Immediately, we go to this program. It's, oh my God. But it, I do get a lot of calls, man, where it's like, how much you have saved up? $500. Yeah, they're in a perfect world today with USDA and engaged in this program, or VA, which are both 0% down programs. You can maybe get into a house if you have like $3 grand, the minimum. Your standard FHA, I try to tell people, I tell them my first time home buyers, target 10 grand. Because the last thing I want to do to you as a lender is approve you, get you into a house. Oh crap, I can't buy a couch. You know what I mean? So I've taken every last dollar out of your pocket. So I always tell people, target 10 grand. We'll figure it out. Just try to get 10 grand.
And this with everything going right, you know.
Yeah, right. Everything on right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So everybody's got to have a minimum of 620.
Yeah.
That lives on the property, including the people that are not on.
No.
Okay.
Anybody on the loan has to have a minimum of 620. But that's a good question, because what we run into a lot is husband and wife, they want to buy a house together, and they initially come to me with a joint application. I pull wife, wife's got a 680, she's golden, I pull husband, he's got a 580, now we got a little bit of work to do. So I let them know, and I refer them to a credit counselor, you know, if need be. I gotta focus on just the wife. Let me get you pre-approved, and we'll base my pre-approval on only her income. I can't pull his income into the loan if he's not on the loan. But then when I do DSHA, I have to include all their income. You follow me? Yeah. So what happens is, I'm approving her for 200,000 because the debt to income only works that way. I can't use husband's job. But if husband makes 100 grand a year, and she's like, why don't the down payment assistance program? Oh, household income rules, you can't use that program. So you follow me? We run into that sometimes too.
Check them out.
Yeah, that's a good divorce. What other questions, guys?
So the unassisted, I guess the benefit to that is, if you had an 800 credit score, going back to that, insured unassisted, if you had an 800 credit score, getting a 2.75 interest rate probably isn't too hard to do today with a FHA, you know, or whatever else. But so the real benefit would be the lower end of the credit spectrum. Is that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have a closing tomorrow where it's a couple who has like 50 grand in the bank. You know, their debt to income's great. Their credit's like 640. And if I were to price that out standard, they don't need help. They're good. If I were to price that out standard, it'd probably be 375, 3875 or something like that. But I can go to DSHA because their income's under, if their income's under the limit, and I can use that rate. And now, I mean, that's a difference to me, I don't know, $150 a month in payment. Sure. I look like a hero. You know, it's like, you know, and they're telling all their friends, I got 2.5%. Look like that. Yeah. It's DSHA program. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get that business card.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. Yeah. It's cool stuff. Not a lot of folks know about it. If you go to the website, you're not going to see a ton of local lenders. Well, I mean, you're not going to see a ton of lenders to really know on there. We're really good at this. We do these all day long. It's not all we do, obviously. You know, I love my $400,000 sales with 20% down that are, you know, 30% debt to income. But this program, I would probably say 4 out of 10 of my deals are this program. Because, you know, first time home buyers, man, this is who this is really designed for. And I don't know if you guys are coming across folks and you're pre-qualifying them, and they're like, oh, yeah, I don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. Think of this. Give me a call. Be like, hey, Richard, is there anything we can do for that? 3 years ago, you couple this with seller credit, you're getting people in the houses with, you know, a couple $100 out of the pocket, but it's just not a reality today.
But you do the speaking as the lender through, like, as the borrower is not talking to DSHA and you.
They never talk to DSHA. All they're doing with DSHA is I have 2 affidavits they need to sign, we do the rest. We go get the money, they never have a conversation with DSHA. Yeah, we're the one lending them the money.
Rich, what do you see, what do you think the next, you know, and it's hard to speculate, you know, maybe 6 to 12 months of interest rates look like?
This is only my opinion, but I'm gonna give you my opinion.
Yeah.
Remember, you
Okay,
Yeah, clearly.
this is only my opinion. So I just read an article last night, and back when COVID hit, you had the government mandate that the big banks allow borrowers to have a forbearance on their mortgages, right, up to 18 months. They expired September of this month. So you've got a bunch of mortgages right now, and I'm sure Wells and Chase and Bank of America have been calling their borrowers for like 3 or 4 months. So have been in forbearance, saying forbearance is about to end, your forbearance is about to end. How do you want to make up for it? And they're offering the option of pay it all back at once. Like, who's doing that, right? You've got 18 months of mortgage payments you haven't had, and you want to pay it all back at once. Nobody's going to do that, right? We'll take that 18 months of payments and we'll condense it into the next 6 months. So your typical mortgage payment, if it was $2,000 a month, might now be $3,500 for the next 6 months. That's painful. Or we'll take all that money and stick it on the back end of the loan. Okay, that's probably an advantage, but that hurts the borrower's credit. So what people are doing this month are having to make a decision. If I've adjusted my lifestyle, which you guys know, with employment, there's people still not willing to work because of unemployment. I've adjusted my lifestyle over the last 18 months not to make a mortgage payment. I'm going on vacation, I'm going out to eat more, I'm doing all this other stuff, and now I gotta make a payment. What we're predicting is a tremendous uptick in foreclosures. Okay. If you see a tremendous uptick in this country in foreclosures, you're going to invert from a seller's market to a buyer's market because you're going to expand the inventory. If we have an expanded inventory, I mean, it's great for us, right? What you probably see is interest rates go up. To answer your question, you're probably going to see the rates start creeping up. We've been sitting at 50, 60-year bottoms for the last year and a half, 2 years now. And I think it's designed to stimulate, get people out of the rental cycle, get people on the homeownership, just keep the market moving. But what it's also done, as you guys know, is unrealistically inflated prices. And the prices of tons of shit. So if the inventory goes up, interest rates go up with it, you'll potentially see values come back down, right? But what you're probably going to get rid of is a lot of these borrowers you're seeing today who otherwise wouldn't be in the market because some of these folks can afford a house today because buying a house monthly payment because the interest rates is cheaper than rent.
Yeah.
So then you might have just, I guess, a more typical market because this is anything but typical. I don't know, man. Every time I think rates are going to jump, they go for a second and then they steady out. I think whoever's in charge of rates, the bond market or whatever, is scared until COVID is over, whatever that is. I don't know. They jumped in February and we're like, all right, here it comes. We're about to take off. And then in March, they dipped and we're back to where we were in December last year. So I don't know, man. That is my opinion only.
Yep, I understand. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
When I've heard too, like, renters or landlords in other states are requiring, like COVID, status, moving forward in terms of, rental contracts and stuff to sort of mitigate a possibility of what happened during COVID happening again. And then I've also heard the idea of doing like 40, 50-year.
Mortgages?
Yeah, is that?
That's not something we're, no,
That must be like Twitter talk or something.
yeah, it might be,
But I've heard the idea that, what they couldn't pay, during COVID is more likely than not gonna be put on the back end regardless of the amount of, years that they have left on the loan and stuff, which makes sense. But like you said, it's gonna hurt their credit, in the long run.
next, they're gonna show 6 months of missed payments, or 18 months of missed payments. We'll see, I don't know that this country can afford a multi-$100 million unit foreclosure thing. I mean, that happened in 2008, and it changed populations, man. It changed Florida, it changed Vegas. Yeah, I don't know if you can do that again, but I mean, at some point, somebody's making money. I mean, the banks gonna forgive everybody? It's cool, somebody's gonna ask for money at some point. Yeah.
The Fed.
Yeah.
What have you noticed? Has there been any easing? Because as a self-employed individual, I know it's been tough for us mainly because of COVID and the uncertainties of business futures. The self-employed population, are they getting any kind of relief on, or easing in your world or no?
No, it's gotten harder.
Okay.
And the Fed has not given any guidance for COVID related stuff. So I'll give you an example. I got a guy who's all peed off at me today, but I got a guy, he's not self-employed, but I'll circle back and answer your question. He's a union guy, a union partner. And all of 2019, he was working, man, W-2 income, I made 80 grand a year. 2020 had, he made like 20 grand. But he made like 80 grand in unemployment. 2021's here, and I'm trying to get the guy through, that's why it's really frustrating. He's only worked like 2 months. He worked in September, he worked 2 months. The rest of the time, he's on unemployment. He's actually made more on unemployment the last year and 9 months than he made in 2019. But the Fed says you cannot use unemployment as income.
Yeah.
Like, says what? If the guy's making 20 grand a year, he doesn't really make that. You cannot use unemployment as income. And that's the guidance they're giving us. Well, it's COVID related. You can't use unemployment as income. So we have self-employed folks who were going gangbusters 2019, COVID hit. The business fell off the ledge. In the 2021, we're seeing the same thing. What the Fed, and they did give us guidance on this, is requiring, you said we get 2 year tax returns. Good, right? They're requiring 2 years tax returns, 2020 profit and loss statement, year to date 2021 profit and loss statement, year to date 2021 all bank statements. And us, the lender, must judge based on that information the viability of continued success of your business. It's like, why is that? Like, none of this is normal. Like, how am I going to judge the viability of your business when you're on gangbusters in 2019? And I know that you're only impacted with COVID. But if you're showing me that you're taking offers constantly and you're using your bank account as an ATM machine, your liquor consumption has increased, Now, my saying his viability is probably not that good. So it's been harder.
And you have to do 2 years, so
Yes, absolutely. 2 years next.
Yeah, but I think your statement's true. Like, I have college friends that are making more money on unemployment than they are in their regular college time jobs, which is insane.
That's crazy. That's not how this country should operate.
Like a whole nother topic for a whole
That's a
nother
whole
day.
nother topic. But yeah, no, it's good, man.
And you're based in Dover and you live in Middletown?
I live in Middletown. I'm based out of right off the State Street in Dover. And this is a hot market for us. Like we're called Pike Creek Mortgage because we originated in Pike Creek. We have like 3 offices up there. We got an office down in Dewey, and we've had this office for about 3 years now. And it's me and one officer working out of there. And this is a wide open market for us. I'm excited about it. I was excited when we chatted at that event. We met at an event down at Justice Landing. Johnson Landing, yeah, at a chamber event. But yeah, I want to build relationships with realtors. you know, I always call myself kind of a blue collar banker, man. I relate to me getting dressed like this was only to impress you guys. So.
Yeah, I've seen the gold change.
Yeah, man, it's my little Italian born there. But yeah, no, if you guys have, you know, the relationships, the good relationships I have with realtors is they've got a box. And I should have said this at the beginning. I don't know how long each of you have been in the industry. Our pre-approvals win deals. They do. We have a really good reputation in this state with the entire realtor community, the attorneys, the appraisers, the inspectors. But when you present, if all other things are equal on the pre-approval and you're making an offer and you've got Quicken Loans over here and Pike Creek over here, I'll bet you 99% of the time Pike Creek's going to win that deal because local does matter in this state and relationships do matter in this state. And I'm biased, obviously, but I've seen it. People call me, they're like, the only reason you won this deal is because you pre-approved Pike Creek. So keep that in mind. If you guys get clients who are handing you their pre-approval letter and it's got Rocket Mortgage on it or Quicken Loans and some of the big names. I mean, I'm not going to be naive. There's some other really good local lenders here in the state. I think we're the best. We get the deals done. You give me a closing date, we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it unless the borrower went out and bought like 5 trucks 2 days before closing.
You say that like it's happened.
Yeah, it's really tough. So, what else, guys?
Do you count Social Security as income?
Yes, if it's ordinary customer, yeah, so if somebody's on a fixed income, and that's part of their income, so you got Social Security comes up, got child support, if they're getting it, comes up. I, as a lender, I'm looking for as much income I can use as possible, because usually what hangs me up more than anything is my debt income ratio. So there's only 2 ways to attack that. I got to bring the debt down or the income up. And if somebody's on Social Security, you'll have a lot of folks who maybe have disabled children in the home. They're getting Social Security for their children. I can add that back to the income. Child support gets hairy because I got to make sure you're actually receiving it. Just because the court ordered it doesn't mean you're getting it. So I need to prove you're actually receiving it on a consistent basis.
And so, Rich, is this your cell? 302-545?
Yeah, I didn't even know. Sorry about that. I noticed after that it was wrong. Yes, that's my cell phone. I gave a card to each of you.
You're welcome to leave them in the, I don't know if you already have or not. There's a,
Okay, cool.
there's a hanger out there that you can put your cards in as well.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to bounce questions off me, you know, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever. And I'm happy to help. I mean, I'm doing what you guys do, man. I'm trying to get people in the house.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
You do like lunches and stuff too? Like you want to grab lunch or something like that, like Dover?
Hey, dude, I brought you donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll do whatever. Yeah, I'm, you know, the way I operate is probably very similar to you guys. You know, trying to network a little bit. If I need to be 1 a.m. working, I'll be 1 a.m. working, no big deal.
Yeah.
And yes, if I enjoy doing like lunch and learns over the last 18 months in Zoom sessions. And we talk about this program a lot. Because the other programs are pretty standard. I mean, FHA deals, conventional, VA. This is something very unique and something that, you know, we're very good at.
Yeah, this program specifically is probably put 15 deals in my pocket in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah, what that otherwise would have never.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, in the last 6 months or so, I've learned just how valuable this program has helped. Like a lot of people have come to me asking questions and stuff. I'm just like, look at the website as much as possible. Because it's something that, you know, before I was in real estate and stuff, I didn't really know it existed. But now that I'm in real estate, I've noticed it a lot in the deals that I've seen. So
Yeah. Good. Yeah, these flyers.
Hey, and you can leave some of those. We got that table right out there, right underneath the business card. If you're welcome to leave some of those. Are they branded with Pike Creek?
They are not.
We can stable a couple of your cards. So, you know, the other you.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We like to make sure that whoever helped us with whatever.
Yeah.
The spoils when you come. Rich, in the future, if any of the agents want to team up with you, do like maybe a first time buyer seminar seminar or something like that, do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Okay.
I love doing stuff like that.
You know, setting just like this or chat.
Yeah, we'd always make this room available too, so.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. Yeah, buyers, some really interesting questions.
I'll throw every scenario at you, man.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Off the top of my head, that's phone number now. But I have a question on you, Cole.
Yeah, sure, please do.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want me to come out, talk about anything else in the future, I'll certainly look to.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for being here too. Thanks, folks. You're welcome. Anytime, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.